Hi guys and welcome back. I have been off on my holidays for the past couple of weeks. I've been to the US. The house was being looked after by a house sitter, which I found slightly terrifying, but everything seems to be fine. So we didn't ask him to do anything with the land other than, keep the dogs, the cat and the chickens alive. So he has done that magnificently. But now I am back out in the garden and I'm just going to have a little look around and see the state of things, because as I say, no one's been out here for a few weeks, so I'll see how it looks. I'm pleased to see that we've still got flowers. I mean, it is a mess now, but the calendula and the cosmos are still in flower, which I think is lovely. There's a lot of death. I mean, I put some onions in and some salad greens in before we left, and that they're all still alive, so that's grand. There's a load of weeds, but that is to be expected. I'm going to come out here and tidy up, but I'm not going to stand around chit-chatting for too long, because I have a pre-New Year's resolution, because, what's the point of waiting for New Year's? If you already know, I am an overthinker, an over-planner, an over-chatter, and sometimes that is to the detriment of actually just getting on and doing stuff. So I endeavour to, not only in my videos, but in my general life, do less thinking about stuff, less planning, less writing lists. Sometimes you just got to get on and do the thing, and then it's done, and then it doesn't have to go on a list. It doesn't mean to say that I won't be doing planning and things, but I think I need to be a bit more of a just get on and do it kind of person. There's still an absolute ton of celery in here. You can see a couple have gone to seed up this end, but there's still absolutely loads, so I'm going to make sure that I get a good chunk of that preserved. And then I suppose I will just leave... just seen the dog. I put some sheep wool that was used in some packaging onto the beds as mulch, and he's just ripped it all off. What was I talking about? I'm going to leave some of the celery at least and just see how long that's going to last out here. It obviously hasn't been too cold, because everything basically looks the same, just with more weeds. Interestingly, before I went, I did the garlic. I think that was one of my previous videos. And here's a little update for you. So I'll turn you around, hang on, after some tea. Right, so this was the bed that the garlic went into. If you watched that previous video, we're doing a bit of an experiment. This side of this stick here, this is all just from the supermarket. In between there is from my own garlic grown last year, and then the two sections at the end are from seed garlic. Now this supermarket garlic has come up much sooner than anything else, followed by my own seed garlic. You can see a few come up in there, and then there's only just the very tippy top heads of the seed garlic coming up now. That's interesting. I don't actually know how relevant that is to how it's going to grow. I just thought it was interesting that you can actually see the difference already. But anywho, my leeks are coming along pretty well. I think it's probably about time to start covering up these. Oh, they're a bit rusty. It's about time to start covering up these stalks, potentially. And they should be good for eating in the spring, which will be good. Otherwise it's much the same. I've got loads of weeding to do, but that's okay. I'm going to do that this week. As I say, it's time to just get on with stuff. I don't want stuff to sit on a list for weeks and weeks and weeks when it really could just be getting done. So welcome to the new me. I think one of the big jobs that I want to get done this week, that has been on my list through the whole season last year, or this year, last season, is sorting out my fruit trees. Now, I planted a load of fruit trees in the winter last year, and I don't think I've done very good by them. And by that I mean I've not really dealt with the base. I think I got away with it this year because it's been so wet all through the summer. It was so wet that they haven't really had to compete for water, but that's not necessarily going to be true. So ultimately the grass has just grown up right around the bases, and I think that is, potentially going to be a problem. I'll show you here. So I've known that that isn't how it should be, and that realistically you want to try and get rid of wind. you know, realistically you want to try and get rid of as much of the grass growing around, just, you know, sort of a metre diameter around the base of a new tree, just to give it a chance to get all the water it needs without the grass taking it straight up from that top layer of the soil. But that just got on top of me a little bit, and that was one of those things that sat on my list but was never the most urgent thing to do. So I'm going to get to the... If anyone knows anything about planes, that looked interesting. Yeah, it's never been my most urgent thing to do, so I haven't got to it, whereas I'm committing that I'm going to get that done this week. What I'm going to do is trim the grass as short as I possibly can around the base of those trees, use some compost, use some mulch, use some cardboard, use whatever I've got to use to really use this bit of winter where it's not growing quite so vigorously, and really try and kill off a lot of that stuff around the base of those trees and try and mark out a border around them, because I did this to start with, then the grass, you know, crept back in because it wasn't obvious where to sort of keep that line of grass versus no grass. One thing I am planning to do this year in the spring, next year in the spring, is to get some geese, and I'm going to run those around the area around my fruit trees. It's probably about an acre in total, so I'm thinking maybe I'll get 2 or 3 geese and run them in this field, which I'm really looking forward to. So hopefully they'll sort of help out with the keeping of the grass down, so we can do less mowing and spend more time doing the things that the garden and the land actually needs. I feel like I spent loads of time just trying to manage grass, when realistically I could have something to do that for me, or at least help me out with it. But I need to get it down over the winter now, get it under control. And I've got time to do that. So today is the 3rd week of November. It's still quite mild. It's probably about 12 degrees Celsius. Keeping up at about 8 overnight, so it's not cold here. I know that a lot of people in the UK have had frosts already, but we're quite protected here, so I've still got some time before it gets really cold to get a load of this work done. So I'm going to take you along with me, and we'll see how that goes. As they say, the goal is to get a lot more done, spend a lot less time standing still, chit-chatting about stuff, and really spring into action now. I am ready, and just for a little bit of joy, here's the chicks. So in the spirit of just getting on with stuff and thinking about it less, I'm going to get on and start clearing the bases around some of these trees. I've got about 30 trees here that need this kind of treatment. I'm not going to get to all of that today, but I'm just going to get done what I can. I think what I'm going to do first is just go in my hands and pull out what is around the base. A lot of it's not actually rooted at the base of the trees because it was mulched earlier in the season. It's just sort of grown in, so I'm going to pull out what I can pull out. Then I think I'm going to use the mulching blade on my brush cutter to clear away a bit of a radius around each trunk, and then I'm just going to grab whatever I've got and do some mulching. I think in an ideal world I would put like a load of wood chips or something on there. I don't have those. I don't really want to go spending hundreds on something like that when I've got a lot of organic material here on the land. So I'm just going to use what I got, which is probably going to end up being some partially decomposed grass clippings, probably some leaves that have come off our trees this season, and I'll just see how far I get. Let's go. I don't want to use this trimmer too close here because I cannot control that thing well enough, so I'm just going to do a best as I can job with the, whatever we call this, and then I use the mulching blade around the edge, staying as far away from this as I can, because that mulching blade will go right through this if I let it. Hello, Bubbo. Oh, you're such a pretty boy. Just for the record, I'm being really careful with this. I really don't want to hit, obviously, the tree itself, but I'm also just staying right on the surface because I don't want to get any shallow roots of these trees. I'm literally just trying to kind of take the top off of this grass really low so that I can throw some mulch over it obscure the light, and hopefully that will really push this grass back. Okay, I'm going to go find some mulch and then we'll lay that on here. And then I'm just going to carry on and do as many of these trees as I can. Okay, so I've just done a little bit of mulch foraging on the land. I found some cardboard. I've got some partially broken down grass clipping sludge. Now, would I put that on like something fresh and green that I'm trying to grow? No, but for this purpose, it should do the job. I also have a load of wool that was used in some packaging. I had it on the compost heap, which would have been fine, but I actually think this is a better use of it. So I use a combination of these things and get this area covered up. So I'm trying to keep any of this mulch from directly touching the base of this tree. I'm really just trying to keep this area around it free from grass. I don't actually want it up against the base of this tree, otherwise it's going to keep it, otherwise it's going to get too damp in there. Hey bud, hey. So I am budging it a little bit. It's not the ideal way to do this, but I really do want to start taking more steps towards being a bit more self-sufficient here. I don't mean in terms of everything, but I just mean where I can get away with using stuff from here. You know, this is organic material that's been from this land and it's otherwise been wasted. You know, it's just sitting in a pile going sludgy and gradually being added to the compost pile, which is not a bad use, but this is a direct use of it without having to buy stuff in. And I think it might just do the job no problem. And if it doesn't, you know, that is fine too. I can try something else. But I like the idea. I'm just trying to get this done with what I've got on hand. So don't judge my methods too much. I think ultimately where this messed up for me last year, because this did actually work. I did something similar last year with grass clippings around the base along with some cardboard, and I had some horse muck that went on here as well. I think the flaw wasn't what I used, it was that I just say and forget it, and realistically I got to keep an eye on these things, doing a bit every day, a bit every week, a bit every month, rather than trying to do it once and calling it good. It's good for now. Is this pretty? No, but hopefully it's going to do the job. I think ultimately what I need to do is think of a plan to sort of border this in so that we don't get exactly the same problem again with the grass just growing back in. I can keep throwing mulch on it, which I should do and I will do, but I think I also need some kind of edge in order to keep this sort of in check. So I'm going to keep my eye out for some like cheap second-hand building materials, maybe some like bricks or some stones or something, just to have an edge around this so there's a really obvious point at which I should be keeping the grass versus no grass. I also might just dig a edged border, but we'll get to that. What I'm going to do now, I think, because I'm going to run out of light soon, is go around and get rid of the grass from the base of these trees, as many of them as I can in this area. I'll have a think about how like best to keep this a bit better maintained, you know, with bordering and whatnot. As I say, hopefully we'll be running geese through here in the not too distant future, and that should help me out a bit. Interestingly, I did a better job of mulching this fig than I did those up there. I've already pulled this bit out, but if you look at this bit here, there's no grass. There's very little grass, but the creeping buttercup is what's come in. There's loads of creeping buttercup, a few nettles, a little bit of grass, but mostly covering this space is creeping buttercup. Got all of this that I've pulled out. That's taken over the empty space really quickly while we've been away, which I find interesting. These poor trees. They need some love. See, once they get bigger, it becomes easier and easier to keep the base of them under more control because they create their own shade, and then they're no longer really competing so much because the root system is so well established. So this is just sort of the next few years, really need to keep up with this and give these guys the best chance. Otherwise, I'm just pushing back that first harvest. So I'll get on with it, but otherwise, I think I'll stop talking. Cheers, guys.